Good morning, everybody. This is Eric Kapitulik. Good morning. This is Eric Kapitulik with the program. So excited to have Megan Gustafson join us this morning. Megan, as many of you will know, let me just read a few of Megan's career highlights. In 2019, she was the Naismith Player of the Year. She's the AP Player of the Year. She's ESPN Women's National Player of the Year. She's received the Honda Sports Award. She's a first-team All-American. She's a recipient. That was these are all 2019 awards, by the way. She's a first-team All-American in 2019 by the AP, the U.S. Women's Basketball Association, and ESPN Women's. She's the recipient of the Lisa Leslie Award. She's a recipient of the Senior Class Award. She was two-time Big Ten Player of the Year. She was the Big Ten Tournament Most Outstanding Player, and she has had she's had her number retired by her alma mater, the University of Iowa Hawkeyes. And Megan, I can't tell you how appreciative I am in the program is to have you join us early on a Saturday morning, because not only is it 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning where Megan is located in Port Wing, Wisconsin, it's 7 a.m. So Megan, thank you so much for joining us. Megan, I just want to jump in really quickly and ask you, all those things that I just listed are what you do. How would you describe who you are?
Yeah, so, I'm very thankful for everything that I've been able to accomplish, but at the same time, you're right, it's not who I am. Who I am is someone who works really hard every single day, and I try to inspire other people. I think that's really who I am at the core. I have a very strong faith, and I try to use that as a positive influence to, really just inspire younger kids, older kids, kind of people of all ages, because at the end of the day, as long as they work hard and they have a really good support system, they can really accomplish big things. And so that's definitely something that represents who I am.
Tell me a little bit more about your faith and how you use that.
Yeah. So, I've always grown up, with a great faith, especially because of my family. They're strong Christians, and, I grew up in the same way, and I'm really thankful for that. And it's really gotten me through a lot of good times, a lot of bad times. And I'm recently started a blog called She's Got Faith, and I've been really leaning on that, especially during my first year as a professional basketball player. And I'm just thankful again for the support system that I've had over the years. And my faith has been something that has also been there.
You mentioned your parents. Can you talk a little bit about them and about the impact that they've had on you and siblings of yours?
Yeah, so both my parents, they played college basketball at some smaller colleges. And then my sister, I have one sister, she's 2 years older than me. She also played basketball at Upper Iowa University, which is a Division II school. And so sports has always been, a huge part of my family growing up. I would always follow my sister in the gym and kind of do everything that she did. And, my dad has coached me before in the past. And so I've always grown up in the gym, growing up with a basketball in my hands. And so, I've loved the game since a very young age. And, I continue to love it to this day.
Yeah. I'd like to ask you about your dad as your coach. I have two young children. My son is 8, my daughter is 3. So my daughter's not yet involved with youth athletics. My son is, and I coach some of his teams. Having a father as a coach or coaching you, what are some of the things that you felt a parent who coaches their child, what are some of the things that he did that you thought were really impactful, and that if you may have, not that you have to, but if you do have your own children someday, that you would do yourself? And is there anything that he did that you go, I'm not going to do that?
Yeah. So actually, my dad coached me when I was a sophomore in high school for my high school team. And so, it was a really special time. We made it to state. My sister was a senior at that time. And so it was amazing, incredible. One thing I really admire is that, he just pushed us to be our best, no matter if he's our dad or I'm our coach. At the end of the day, when we were stepped onto that court, he was our coach. And so I really respected that. I loved it. But at the same time, he was always our biggest supporter, no matter what, even if it was at the end of the game, as soon as everything was done, it was just a supportive dad. And so I love that, a part of, who he is. And, someday maybe I'll take that into my future.
Yeah. And during your playing career, what was the relationship with your mom and by the way, I'm going to keep asking about questions about mom and dad, because when people read off or I'm speaking and we're going to, as a speaker, people will list off all of those things that you do in life. While first and foremost, I think of myself as a husband and a father. So it's near and dear to my heart, and hearing the impact that your dad, and you mentioned both your parents had on you as an individual and as a basketball player as well. It's very interesting, just to me personally. Was there, and maybe you don't know this, but was there, what was the balance, do you think your dad had or you felt, between how hard he pushed you or not? Was that a struggle for him, or have you always been so passionate about the game? And you mentioned, who I am as a hard worker. So was there a need for him to push you, or did you just go hard?
Right. To be honest, I think I inherited that hard work from my parents. I've always been somebody who's been very competitive, and I've never really had problems pushing myself to the best that I can do. And so there was never any problems with that, thankfully. He was always just there just to guide us, me and my sister, if there was ever a need for that. But besides that, he kind of just sit back and let us do our thing. And, I think that's really cool for a parent to do that, because I don't know for sure, but sometimes it's hard for parents to just sit back and let them do that. And so I'm just thankful for the support that he showed, while coaching me. And then again, both my parents, they were able to give me so many opportunities. Growing up in a small town, we didn't have many opportunities, and they drove me, hours just to get to AAU basketball tournaments around the country every single summer. And so I'm just thankful for both of them.
Yeah. Did you play other sports? What were your other interests growing up? And by the way, it doesn't have to be sports, just what were other things that you did outside of basketball, or was it from a very young age basketball?
Right. So I was actually a 3-sport athlete all the way through until high school. I did volleyball, and then I also did track. I would definitely say track was my second sport, after basketball. I made it to state in shot put and discus, finished fourth in the state my senior year, shot put. And so that was another thing that I really enjoyed doing. And I love volleyball too. And so I love that, I'm from a small school, because I was able to do all these different things and experience things that maybe going to a big school I wouldn't have. And so, because of that, I'm pretty well-rounded in terms of other sports. And it's helpful for cross training too, because at the end of the day, I love those other sports, but I love basketball so much more. And, it really helped me become an even better basketball player.
Yeah. For me, I was a 3-sport athlete as well throughout high school until I got to college. And all of us, we always talk about at the program, we're all a sum of our experiences, right? So in my experiences, because of those experiences and the impact playing multiple sports had on me and my development, I just do not understand the idea of one sport from 6 years old until your life is ending, right? Like that just does not make any sense to me. And and I'm not trying to say, and by the way, let me say, people don't tell me how to raise my kids, and I'm not trying to tell you how to raise your kids either, right? You if that's the choice you make, that's the choice. But the arguments that I hear about why parents do it doesn't seem to make sense. It doesn't speak to me. Meaning, one will hear, well, he or she wants to do it. Well, at 6, 7, 8 years old, I wanted to do some things. I mean, at 26 years old, I wanted to do some things that I should not be doing, right? So, I mean, that's where guidance comes in from a parent, I believe. Mm-hmm. Also, you know, the number of overuse injuries that you see. I mean, there's been articles just recently in the past year about how many of centers and forwards that go to the NBA. And this was specifically the NBA, but you know, maybe it's the same in the WNBA, that of overuse injuries. So athletes, their bodies haven't developed because they've just been using those same muscles again and again, and their bodies aren't built for the demands of a professional career. So that's an aside, but so it's interesting that you've played all three. Let me shift gears here a little bit, Megan, because one of our very good friends of the program, a client, but a much more than that, a prospect, and really somebody whom I get better every time I speak to her. She's a high school. Well, again, I'm about to say, well, she's a high school women's lacrosse coach here at Concord Carlisle in Massachusetts, and she would probably say, no, I'm not a high school coach. I'm a mother and a wife and a mother first, right? Too, but she does, for her job, she's a coach. And one of the things that Erin Cash asked is about how you persevered through being released after being drafted by your current team. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask it anyway, but Erin really spurred me to ask it early, because for us, who you are, and we'll talk about the coronavirus here shortly and what you're doing, but adversity does not build character, it just reveals it, we believe. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. You know, so I was drafted in April by the Dallas Wings, and then about less than 24 hours before the final rosters were revealed, I was actually cut. I was one of the final 2 players cut. Obviously that was really hard because, you know, my whole life I'd never been cut from a team, especially basketball. You know, it was my whole life. And so obviously that was really hard for me, you know, getting that news. And honestly, to persevere through something like that, I had to lean on my faith. You know, before that moment, I had just wanted to start a blog about, you know, my experiences post-graduation with basketball, traveling, adventures. But then my perspective changed, and I thought, you know, what's most important to me is my faith. And that's what I leaned on each and every day. You know, I went home to spend time with my family, and then I went right back to work. You know, kind of that saying, when you fall off the horse, get right back on, is kind of what I try to live by. And, you know, I went right back to Iowa to keep training really, really hard every single day. And thankfully got the call back a few weeks later. But again, I just had to trust in God and what he had planned for me. And thankfully it all worked out.
Yeah. When a player is let go from a team in the WNBA, because it has been years since I've been cut, and Megan, I listed all of your athletic accomplishments. I was a 3-sport varsity athlete in high school, and I did play college athletics. Okay, so I've just listed all of my athletic accomplishments to you. That's it, right? There is nothing else for me to talk about. So I've actually been cut from lots of teams, albeit it's all a lot later, a lot further in history than your own. So I don't really remember it. But can you tell us a little bit, when a WNBA team cuts you, is it, Megan, you need to work on these skills, or Megan, we're letting you go because of these skills, or is it just, nope, hey, you're cut?
I did get some feedback when I did talk to, the coaches and whatnot. A lot of it was out of my control. A lot of it was not just based on my performance, because there are so few roster spots in the WNBA. There are only 12 teams with 12 roster spots each. So that's 144 basketball players in the entire world that get to be on a team. And so there are a lot of factors that go into making a roster besides just pure talent. And, obviously that was something really hard to swallow, because I had worked really hard. I thought I performed pretty well in training camp. And so just to hear that it was out of my control, it's something that, I had to accept and kind of move on. Obviously they did give me feedback about things that I could improve on. And those are things I'm still working on today. But, at the end of the day, I just had to kind of control what I can control. And that's something that I've taken from the University of Iowa, what Coach Bluter taught me. And I definitely brought it with me into the pros.
Megan, thanks so much for bringing that piece up about I can only control that which I can control. And right now, by the way, you'll hear me, and it's just a mindset that we have at the program that we don't call this during this adversity. We call it during this opportunity. Is just a mindset that we have about our current climate here in our country and really in the world. But that idea, you hear a lot during this opportunity about controlling the controllables. What are you doing right now, and what would you tell your younger self, the youth, all the 8, 9, 10-year-old kids who young adults who are at home right now, not at school, not playing organized sports, the high school, you in high school, if this was now you in high school or college, what are some of the things that you would talk about to them, or talk about your younger self about controlling the controllables?
Yeah. It's so important to do just that, is to control the controllables. There's so many things out of our control, so many different aspects of life that can be thrown at you. And something, again, I've learned so much from the University of Iowa and being a part of, Iowa women's basketball program. And one thing Coach always talks about is win. And it doesn't just mean winning games. It means 3 things. It means working hard. No matter what happens, just keep working hard, keep grinding day in and day out. Integrity for the eye. At the end of the day, it's really important to do what you're going to say you're going to do, and be honest, be caring. Integrity means so much more than just that. And it means being a good person as well as just a good basketball player. And then N stands for no excuses. And, at the end of the day, we can make so many excuses about why we're not going hard every single day, why we're not doing this or that. But at the end of the day, again, it comes down to being able to control what you can control, and, working hard, having integrity, and not making excuses is something that really shaped me into being a physically, mentally, and emotionally tough player on and off the court.
That's awesome advice and counsel for all of us. And it reminded me, Megan, of we with some of the work with, I'll use a corporate example here. There's salespeople, or not, there are some salespeople. There isn't a salesperson in America who isn't almost clinically depressed during this time, because it's all about goals and what we want to accomplish. And as you're discussing winning, and as Coach Bluter explains it, right? It's about working hard. We do have to win, but that means that we have to work hard. We have to be people of integrity, not make excuses. What I hear when you're saying that is, yes, we should have goals, but those are all values. They're all standards that we have to do every single day. And instead, let's have goals, but just let's stay focused on these standards every single day of what makes us, in your case, one of the women of Iowa basketball. And if we do this every single day, well, then winning, the actual winning, the accomplishment of our goals ends up being a byproduct of who we prove ourselves to be every single day, being hard workers, being people of integrity, not making excuses. So I love to hear that from somebody who's done everything that you've accomplished in your life, that that's what you look at every single day. So that's impactful to me, and that's something I'm going to share with my own children and my own family. So I appreciate that. Now, let me shift gears a little bit, because I asked you to come and join us, and you're nice enough to wake up not only at 7 a.m., but then join me at a half hour before to make sure all of our technical issues are done. And then I just ask you, I keep driving home the point about being cut. Let me instead shift gears and talk to us. I would love to hear your emotions, what it feels like about having your number retired.
Yeah, obviously that was a really special moment in my career. And it happened so quickly after I graduated. It was less than a year after. So it was pretty fresh in people's minds. And I think that's what made it even more special for me and for the fans that came to attend. But it was something I will never forget for the rest of my life, honestly. There was over 13,400 people at the game. I was able to watch this year's team compete really hard. And I'm just proud to be able to come back and see how well that they've continued to uplift not only the high standards that we had when I was there, but also the culture and the chemistry that the team has, because at the end of the day, they really care for each other. The coaches care for each other. Everyone is just working together. And just to be a part of that and to say that I'm a Hawkeye for life, that's something that I'm forever grateful for. And it was a crazy day. Honestly, it didn't really hit me until the jersey actually physically started to rise up into the rafters, just because that day was so busy. My head was kind of spinning. But at that moment, and the announcer was kind of reading off all the announcements of my accomplishments, I was like, wow, like this is real. This is actually happening. And so, again, I'm forever grateful for the experience.
As you're discussing having your jersey raised up into the rafters and seeing that, I'm getting goosebumps over here, thinking about that. I can only imagine the feelings that you must have had having that and seeing there and being there and all of the people. And it's funny because you mentioned all of those fans in the arena. One of the listeners this morning is Chad Hogue. Chad, Megan, is a native of Iowa, and he and I served in the Marine Corps together. When I was a 22-year-old second lieutenant infantry officer, Sergeant Hogue was my platoon sergeant. And even at 22, the guy would not I'd say shut up, but that's not a nice word. My son always tells me, right? But the guy would not stop talking about being a Hawkeye. So he's excited that you're on. He and his family are listening. So give him a shout out.
Go Hawks.
Megan, let's talk about Iowa, because we have the privilege of having worked with you at Iowa and with with your coaching staff and the team. And obviously what you all have accomplished and they all have accomplished is impressive. Getting back to advice to my younger self, for the high school athletes that are out there, and I want to keep driving home the point. I don't want to talk about this as being, well, hey, what about for the high school female athletes, or what about for the youth female? Like you and I were talking yesterday, just very briefly, that my sister is a couple-time women's first team All-American in lacrosse. And she and I do get questions when administrators will be asking about the program and about our services. To this day, we still get questions about, like, well, what do you do differently for the girls? And my sister, I think, wants to punch that person in the face. Like when they say it, right? It's like, wait, is this 1950 still? Like, no, I just want to ask a question about advice to your younger self, meaning advice to all younger athletes about your decision to choose Iowa. What were your other, and you don't have to name the schools if you don't feel comfortable with this, but did you have other choices? What were the things that you looked for as a high school athlete that you would suggest other high school athletes think about when they're making a choice to go play at a particular university? And were there things that maybe you put a premium on that after attending college, you go, oh, that I got lucky, but that wasn't, it shouldn't have been that important to me. Any advice to those athletes?
Yeah. So, when I was making my decision, I did have a few other schools, mostly some other Big 10 schools, Big 12. And I was really looking for, a winning program traditionally. Obviously that's something that I want to be a part of. I want to win championships, and thankfully I was able to. But, looking back, that's something that is important, but it's not as important as things like being a part of a family atmosphere. That's what really drew me into Iowa, especially getting to know the coaches, how amazing they are, not as just coaches, but more importantly as people. And they really want to grow you as more than just a basketball player. They want to grow you as being an advocate for younger children to inspire them. They kind of shaped me into that, what I am today. And, being a woman in sports, it's just incredible what they were advocating every single day to us. And, the team was amazing. They've always had a high, really good chemistry, good teamwork, and obviously just that overall family atmosphere is what drew me in. So I would say to high school students, if you're looking to play somewhere, look for that family, that togetherness, just to see how they stick together. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you. It never is. That's something that I'm going to emphasize every single day. It really isn't about you. It's about your team. It's about trying to get those around you so much better. And, when you do that every single day, you're going to be better, and those individual results will come. And so, that's something that I learned from Iowa and that I'll take with me.
On that note, thank you for that. On that note, we have a couple of listeners who've asked a similar question, which I was going to ask anyway. You've played, you're a 3-sport varsity athlete coming out of high school. You played sports your entire life. One of those coaches was your father. You've played at every single level, youth, high school, college, professional during this. What are some of the qualities or just things about a coach that are most important, or that you feel have been most impactful on you? What did coaches do, or who were those coaches? What are some of the really things that made an impact on you, both positively, and were there some things that you saw in some of your coaches throughout your career that you didn't agree with, or thought that doesn't really work with me?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to have so many great coaches in my life, from when I was a little girl till now. And I think some of the things that really stuck out to me is the relationships that they try to build off the court. Obviously I play basketball and I spend a lot of time with coaches on the court. But to be honest, the most impactful thing is when they do reach out to you off the court, when they spend time investing in you as a person rather than just a basketball player. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to play basketball forever. As much as I'd love to play, I'm not. And it's more important to develop myself as a person. And, those coaches that did that, that really had a lasting impact on me. And, I haven't really personally had an experience with it, but if there are coaches that don't invest in that, that's something that they're really missing out on, especially not just for their players, but for themselves, because they grow those relationships, those connections to those players, and they'll have those for the rest of their lives. And so, again, I just emphasize, if I ever become a coach one day or whatever, I would invest into who they are as players off the court.
Megan, I would just like to tell our audience, we at the program cannot stress enough or agree with Megan more than that point that you just made right there. Specifically, right now, during this opportunity, I feel like because of this, there are some companies, organizations that are going to go out of business through no fault of their own. However, there are a fair number we're going to see do use this time as an opportunity and will grow because of it, and others that will not. And the number one thing, Megan, that we have talked about, taught, continued to discuss is, I get it. You're not able to play ball right now. And and insert any sport name in there. You're not able to teach football in spring ball. You're not able to have practices with everybody on campus right now. You can't install your defensive sets, your offensive sets. Okay, what you can do, and what this is an opportunity to do, unlike any other time in what will be coach's entire career, business leaders' entire career, is build relationships. Mm-hmm. And if I have to hear one more person talk to me about socially distance, at least I'm not going to get into it personally, but okay, if we're supposed to physically distance, as is noted, by some experts, okay, you want to talk about physical distancing. Okay, socially, what a great opportunity this is to show just how much we truly care mm-hmm. about our athletes, about our corporate teammates, in building those relationships right now. So I really appreciate you mentioning that. On that note, Megan, talk to me about your teammates. And we hear so much, Megan, and this is coming from somebody who founded and runs a leadership development and team building company. I think a real mistake parents make, coaches make, teachers make, is telling kids constantly, hey, go out there and be a leader. Hey, you got to be a leader. Be a leader. To me, with my own children, I've never once talked to them about be a leader. And quite frankly, if Axel's coach, my son, or one day calls me and says, Eric, Axel's the greatest teammate we have on our team, I'm going to be really proud of that. Like, I'm going to be psyched. Now, that's not to say I don't want him to become a leader, but first and foremost, if we can be great teammates and never be great team leaders, and that's wonderful. Now, if you want to be a great team leader, you got to be a great teammate first, we believe. Mm-hmm. Let's just talk about teammates, Megan. What are some of the things, if again, advice to your younger self, that you did that you said, hey, that made me a great teammate? Or if I were to do it again, I wish I had, I would do whatever better than I did before to ensure I was a better teammate. Second part to this question is, tell me who's the best teammate. And I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. Instead of telling me a person who's the best teammate that you've ever had in your life, talk to me about some of those qualities that you think made them the best teammate. Yeah,
I totally agree with what you said is, being a great teammate will lead to being a good leader. And I think, that leadership is a result of really putting the effort of being the best teammate you can be. That's something that I love so much about team sports, is that you get to cheer on your teammates and you get to be excited for their successes, because at the end of the day, you can't do anything without them, and vice versa. And so, again, just I look for in a great teammate is, no matter what you're doing, you're cheering on your teammates more. You're more excited for them than you are yourself. And that's really what makes great team sports, is when you do have a compilation of great teammates. And, those teams are the ones that are going to have the most success at the end of the day. And so, I've been so blessed and thankful that I've had so many teammates that are like that, is where, if I'm down, if I have a bad game or whatever it is, they're there to pick me up no matter what. They have instilled the confidence in me that I need to move forward, and then I'm modeling that exact behavior because I see that in my teammates. And so, at the end of the day, it's not about me. It never has been. It's been about the team. And, I'm thankful that I've had so many great teammates.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there, Coach Cash asked another question. She had asked, how did you get from talented and good player to an elite performer? Do you remember making a decision to become elite? Did it just come from hard work? Was it a byproduct from hard work? How did you make that performance jump from good to great, or from good to elite? And how do you look at, well, hey, I am one of those 12 teams, 12 players. I am one of those 144. How do you keep yourself? I'd add something on to Coach Cash's comment here. Question is, how do you ensure that you can be happy with where you're at, but not satisfied.
Right. Yeah, that's obviously a balance that is something that a lot of athletes try to work on every day is, whether it be happy with what you've been doing, but not satisfied with everything. It's really important for me, when I'm looking back at my journey from going from good to great, the most important thing is doing the extra things. A lot of things that you don't want to do. Maybe you're in the gym at 10 o'clock at night instead of being with your friends, or, being the first one to the gym to get up shots and the last one to leave. Those things actually are 100% controllable. And sometimes people are thinking, wow, to be a great athlete, you have to have this crazy natural talent. No, I don't believe that for a second. Obviously it helps to have talent naturally, but to really build that from going to good to great, you have to do the extra things. You have to put in the work. You have to be a good teammate, do those things you can control and really maximize those every single day. And so, going from that, being happy with what you've done, but never satisfied. That's also a mindset that I tended to have. I'm obviously proud of what I've been able to accomplish, but there's so much more to do. And that kind of motivates me every single day to improve, because at the end of the day, all of us can improve, not as just, people in sports, but people in the real world. We can always improve to be a better person every single day. There's not really a limit to that, I don't believe. And so, I think just taking that mindset into your day-to-day activities as an athlete, as a person, it's really going to help you out in the end.
Yeah. Megan, I'm going to be respectful of your time this morning. We're so appreciative of you joining us. I want to give you an opportunity, and then I've got something to close with, but I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your blog, She's Got Faith, where people can find it. Where do they go to see it? I'd like you just to talk about it, what it's about, what young readers, what all of us are going to get from consuming it.
Yeah, so I do have a website, she'sgotfaith.home.blog. If you just look that up, you can go to it there. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it on Instagram and Twitter. If you just look up She's Got Faith. I've just really used it as a way to be a light for people that are in the darkness. There's so many awful things that happen in this world, especially with what's been going on lately, and just to be a light to somebody else that really needs it is all I've ever wanted to accomplish. That's why I play sports. That's why I play basketball. That's how I use my platform. At the end of the day, it's not about, I've said this so many times already, but it really isn't about me. It's about trying to help other people out and trying to be inspiration to them. And so, I really hope that's what I'm able to accomplish with this blog. And, eventually I do want to write a book. I've been kind of coming up with some ideas right now about, my faith and my thoughts on that, and so we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, I'm just excited to, create inspiration for other people.
Again, that's she'sgotfaith.home.blog, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Megan, it's just interesting listening to you. By the way, let me show this for everybody here. Megan, thanks, Omri. Omri's my teammate at the program, so I appreciate that, Omri, helping me out, which I should have had this already teed up, ready to go. So, Megan, let me just thank you so much for all the advice and counsel that you gave to our listeners and to me personally as an athlete, albeit an aging one, but also just as a human being, as a father. When I think about my own children, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And you can see from the comments how much our listeners appreciate it. Let me just give you, if I could, let me just give you one thought about writing a book. Mm-hmm. Myself and Jake McDonald, one of my teammates at the program, one of our lead instructors, we wrote our book, The Program, and had it published last fall. We worked on it for about a 2-year process, but full on about a year. Mm-hmm. And what I realized going through writing a book was I've been giving speeches for a decade now. And what I realized writing the book was, a lot of my speech is physical presence, right? Like I'm big, I'm kind of strong, right? I look the part. I walk toward the crowd. I use my voice at certain times. I know when to take pauses as I'm speaking to get maximum effect from the audience through rehearsal, practice, and doing it again and again and again. Then I wrote a book, and I realized that all of the stuff up on a stage, that's just a performance. It's 98% performance and 2% content. Then you have to write a book, and it's 100% content.
Mm-hmm.
And just how little content I had is what writing a book did for me. With that said, writing a book is one of the most challenging things I've done in my life. I would climb up Mount Everest 3 more times than trying to compared to the challenge of writing a book. I mean, it is challenging, but like all things challenging in life, Megan, I'll tell you now, I'll be the first pre-order that you have if you write that book, because first of all, it will make you a better person. And like any challenge does, if you have the right mindset and you're willing to work through it, it will make you a better person. It made me a better person. It made our company a better person. So I would really recommend it to you. And please just know, and you can tell the publisher, you will definitely have the first copy. Now, I can't say first copy because based on what you're telling me about your parents in your family, I may not be the first person to pre-order, but I'll be high on that. So I can't. I really hope you do it. Number one. Number two, just in closing, I want to share. I talked about Sergeant Hogue before. I just want to leave you, Megan, and leave the listeners with something that that Sergeant Hogue wrote in when we were talking before. And this is what he wrote in to end. Megan is such a great role model around here. She always made time for the kids after games. I just it doesn't surprise me talking to you and getting to know you, Megan, that this is what Sergeant Hogue remembers from you. The thing is that that's what most people end up remembering about people who truly make an impact on them. You're 2-time player of the year, your Big Ten tournament most outstanding player. You're the Naismith basketball recipient. And ultimately, what do people remember about you? She's a great role model. She made time for kids after the game. That's the reflection of not just a great basketball player, but a great person. And again, Megan, thank you so much for spending that time and being a role model to me, to being a role model to our listeners, sharing that time and making the impact that you've done throughout your entire career, but certainly continue to do so today. She's got faith.home.blog. Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.